way more farther, and no one even knew like how far they were going.
So you kind of got
I was like the last one, so I was like all alone.
the incident.
Stop everything. You're looking at a special needs kid abandoned miles from school because his teachers joined a political protest. This is the reality behind the headlines you aren't being shown. We are diving into the absolute chaos unfolding across the country right now.
Mother says she just wants answers after her special needs son is found wandering miles away from his school when he was supposed to be in class.
I don't feel safe. I'm just scared to go back. There's something could happen that same day again.
11-year-old Richard Harley says he doesn't want to go back to class after he was found wandering, scared and alone, miles away from school grounds following a student-led walkout protesting ICE.
They were supposed to stay on 72, like by the school, but they did the exact opposite.
This is actually hard to watch. Imagine being a parent, dropping your child off at school, thinking they're in a safe, supervised environment, only to find out they've wandered miles away into a busy intersection because the adults in the room decided to prioritize a walkout over their basic duty of care. Richard is an 11-year-old with special needs. He has an IEP for a reason. He requires specific supervision. Yet, because of an anti-ICE protest, he was left entirely on his own. Look at the mother's face in the footage. She is beyond terrified. The school didn't even notify her that he was missing or tardy. They just opened the gates and let the kids stream out. When people talk about peaceful protests in schools, they rarely mention the collateral damage. In this case, a vulnerable child left in a panic at a major intersection. This isn't just a failure of policy. It's a total breakdown of common sense and humanity in the name of political optics.
I don't have to
push tariffs.
I have the right to do tariffs, and I've always had the right to do tariffs. It has all been approved by Congress, so there's no reason to do it. All we're doing is we're going through a little bit more complicated process, not complicated very much, but a little more complicated than what we had. We'll be able to take in tariffs, more tariffs.
Did you catch that look of absolute confidence? While the media was busy celebrating a Supreme Court loss for the administration, Trump was already 3 moves ahead. Most people don't realize that the SCOTUS ruling was purely procedural. They basically told him he used the wrong statute, not that he lacked the power. He's essentially telling Congress and the media that he doesn't need to ask for permission because the authority is already baked into existing law. It's that art of the deal energy where he turns a roadblock into a launching pad. He knows the unity on the Republican side is sitting at 215 votes, and he's using that leverage to pivot to a global 10% tariff. It's a bold chess move that completely bypasses the narrative the Democrats were trying to build. You can see he's unfazed by the wannabe king labels. He's focused on the economic leverage, and clearly, he believes the law is on his side. This is where things get truly upside down. In Detroit, they are now suspending police officers without pay, not for a crime, but for calling federal authorities for translation help. Think about the logic here. A sergeant handles a language barrier during a traffic stop, calls Border Patrol to assist, and now she's being treated like the criminal. The message being sent to law enforcement is, do not collaborate with the federal government or you will lose your livelihood. It's creating this bizarre sanctuary vacuum where local police are being handcuffed by their own leadership. Whether you agree with the immigration policy or not, punishing a sergeant for utilizing a federal resource for translation is a massive reach. This is why local elections carry so much weight. The policy at the top is directly impacting the safety protocols on the street. It's a total mess, and you can bet a major lawsuit is already brewing over due process violations.
The abolishment of the 287G program is not the abolishment of ICE. They're going nowhere. In fact, they're going to intensify their efforts. We warned them this was going to happen, and it's going to happen.
A warning on Wednesday, issued by sheriffs from the 9 Maryland counties forced to end active partnerships with ICE under a new state law.
It is the biggest betrayal.
You have to respect the backbone of these Maryland sheriffs. They aren't just rolling over for Governor Moore's ICE ban. They're calling it what it is, a betrayal of public safety. When a sheriff says, "We defend constitutional policing," they are drawing a line in the sand. They are pointing out the dangerous reality that if they arrest a violent criminal who happens to be an illegal alien, the state is forcing them to release that person back into the community rather than handing them over to federal agents. It's a direct conflict between state ideology and local safety. These sheriffs are essentially saying their oath to protect the community overrides the governor's executive order. It's a high-stakes standoff that we're seeing play out in multiple states, and it really highlights the deep divide between the executive branch and the boots on the ground who have to deal with the actual consequences.
What you're hearing about today is that 10% global tariff under something called Section 122. This tariff measure does allow actually for a tariff to reach up to 15%, but the president setting that global tariff at 10%. The thing is, Jake, this tariff is only in effect for 150 days. It would take congressional approval to extend the...
Even CNN had to give a reality check on this one. When you see Jake Tapper asking point blank if Trump can do this, and the answer is a resounding yes, you know the legal ground is firmer than people think. Section 122 allows for tariffs up to 15% for a 150-day window without any initial congressional approval. This completely nukes the Democrat argument that Trump is acting outside the law. It turns out he's just switching lanes. The media spent all day talking about a Supreme Court defeat, only for their own legal analysts to confirm that the new 10% global tariff is perfectly legal. It's a fascinating look at how the administration is navigating the legal bureaucracy to keep their trade agenda moving. It's not about a loss, it's about a pivot. The landscape is shifting fast. If you want the raw truth without the filter, make sure to follow for more. Catch you in the next one.